Okay guys, Reverend Verse here with an episode of Doom. Technically Ultimate Doom. So I just finished the Doom 64 run not long ago and I figured, hey, you know what? Let's do the Ultimate Doom. That should be fun, right? So we're going to go through all the episodes. And we're going to start off with Ultraviolence, because Nightmare is, you know, that probably won't be fun for you guys to watch. And honestly, it's been a while since I've done Ultraviolence, so it'll hurt me. I think before Doom 2016 came out, it did hurt me plenty, and it was fairly easy, so we'll go with Ultraviolence. Now, I am using GZ Doom, which gives me the mouse look, which, you know, there's even Jump, which I won't be using Jump, really. But, and some purists will probably say, oh, well, that's not real Doom, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it's got mouse look. I've got the PlayStation sound effects and PlayStation's music, which I prefer. Honestly, that's just how I prefer Doom. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And again, if you know, complain, then you can just go pack sand. I don't care what your opinion is on that. It's not like I'm speedrunning this game. There's strict rules involved. Alright, so we got problems here. This is proving to be a bit of a challenge already. First level and I'm close to dying. Now, how sad is that? Alright, but we're not doing too bad now. Things are under control. You know, it's actually been, oh, I'm full of ammo. I'm not gonna lie, Ultimate Doom, I'm not the biggest fan of. I actually prefer, like, if somebody said, hey, you can play a classic Doom, which one will you play? I would probably choose Doom 2 every time. Not the biggest fan of Ultimate Doom. I mean, the later levels are fine. It's really just when you start getting into the later levels where I think it gets good. I'm really not a huge fan of the first episode of Doom, Ultimate Doom. And Thy Flesh Consumed is actually pretty dang hard. Thy Flesh Consumed is actually exceedingly hard. I do think Doom 1 is harder than Doom 2. I'll be honest. Final Doom is pretty hard, though. I would say Doom 2 is probably the easiest in the series. Maybe Doom 64 is pretty up there, too, as far as easy factor. But I think this is definitely not Final Doom hard or Master Levels hard, but this is much harder than Doom 2 at least. And much more harder than Doom 64 as well, so yeah, come on. I think there's a... not. I thought there was a guy up here. It's on this other side here. I don't think I... Okay, I can get to that from here. I thought there was an imp in here. I might even do the PlayStation Total Conversion of Doom, which is actually a bit different. I think it's really fun. I like it. It has kind of a different feel, even though I'm using the sound effects. The lighting is really different. The just overall feel is different. It just feels just different. And in a good way, so I'm a fan. Alright, so I am going to go down there. I'm going to go down there right now. Ah! Man. That hurt. And let's be honest, Doom 2 is better because it has a double barrel shotgun. that makes everything more fun. Double barrel shotgun is just so satisfying, or the super shotgun as they call it in here. Alright. Actually, I just could have gone here. I've done these levels I don't know how many times. I remember one of the first ways I played Doom was it's kind of funny actually. My very first experience with Doom was actually the Super Nintendo version of Doom, which is a terrible. It's probably the worst port of Doom. I mean, it really is. It's probably the absolute worst version of Doom. If you had to choose a bad version of Doom to play, that was it. The Game Boy Advance version is probably better than the Super Nintendo version of Doom. But that was my first time playing Doom, and I remember I actually enjoyed it. I had fun with it. And then a buddy of mine had a Sega 32X, which is also considered to be a terrible port of Doom, but it was way better than the Super Nintendo version. It was like, I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And what's funny is that it had cheats, which the Super Nintendo version didn't have cheats. You didn't have codes to put in or button combinations or whatever to get like invulnerability and all the weapons and everything. So we would just like, me and my buddy would load up 32X version, just put on, God mode and all weapons, just blow everything up with rocket launchers, and that, we had a lot of fun with that. And what was funny was that it was a terrible version of Doom. It didn't have every level. Looking back at it, the graphics were just absolutely atrocious. Again, not as bad as the Super Nintendo one, but it was still pretty bad in retrospect. And I played that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. This is amazing, At that point, I didn't own a Sega Genesis, I didn't own a 32X, but I kind of wanted one just for Doom. And I'm probably the only person who will ever say that they wanted a 32X for Doom, because it was such a bad version of Doom. And at the time, the only computer I had was an Apple II, an Apple IIe to be specific. So I definitely wasn't going to be playing Doom on my PC. Wasn't going to happen. So I just fell in love with that. And I still played Doom on the Super Nintendo for quite a while. And actually, I never beat it. I never actually beat Doom, Super Nintendo Doom. I'd always get really close to the end, but it was hard because the controls were kind of slow and choppy. It was just bad. It was everything about it was bad. Anybody who could beat the Super Nintendo version of Doom, hats off to you. It was tough. It was very rough. Yeah, so Super Nintendo version was like everything, and then I got it. We finally got it IBM 386, right? Not enough for at the time. 486s were kind of the thing, but we got a 386. Yeah, I think it was like a hand-me-down, and I got the shareware version of Doom, and I played the heck out of that. And of course, shareware version was just, the first episode, and I played that multiple times because I was like, wow, this is way better than the Super Nintendo version. And at that point, I think, Windows 95 computers were, to be honest, I think when we had that 386, 486s were not top of line. I think Windows 95 was still like top of the line thing. If you had Windows 95, you were, a computer that could run Windows 95, you were, sitting on Easy Street. But I played the hell out of that Doom, the shareware version, and I never did buy the full version of it on the computer because we didn't even have speakers. So I was playing it on mute the whole time, no sound effects. It was a pretty ghetto setup. My choices with Doom was Doom on the Super Nintendo and Doom on a 386 with no speakers. It was pretty bad. And then I got a PlayStation. Actually, I rented a PlayStation. I didn't have one. I rented a PlayStation from Blockbuster back when you can actually rent consoles, and I rented Doom for it. And oh my gosh, the lighting effects, everything about it was just so much better. Was just amazing. And compared even to like the shareware version I had, the DOS version, it was so much better than that. It was like I can't even quantify. Like, I was in Doom heaven. Now, at the time, I really do think that version of Doom was the best version of Doom. I think eventually it went on the Saturn or something, but I never owned a Saturn. I never played that version, so I don't know if it was actually any good or not. I know this. It was either the Turbo. It was either the Jaguar version or yeah, I think it was the Jaguar version, which you didn't use the PlayStation soundtrack. You had its own like remixed heavy metal version of the, you know, DOS version, the soundtrack, and it was pretty amazeballs, not gonna lie. I've actually had that soundtrack, and I've used that a couple times with GZ Doom, because it's just, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazeballs, but, yeah, PlayStation version of Doom was so amazing, and that was one of the, when I finally bought a PlayStation, that was one of the first things I did, was buy Doom for the PlayStation. I loved that version of Doom. I had Doom 1, Doom 2 is the first time I used a super shotgun. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Lighting effects, the new sounds, the music, it was scary and creepy, and, you know, I was up late hours at night playing it and just scared out of my mind. And it was glorious. I loved it. You know, I kind of miss those days in a weird sort of way. And of course, this is back then when a game like Doom was actually scary. You know, nowadays, Doom is like, I mean, back in the day, if I was playing this, I'd be like on the edge of my seat. You know, if this was, you know, 15 years ago, or even 20 years ago, I'd be on the edge of my seat, like right now, like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. But back then, it was scary. Until the games like Silent Hill came out and kind of redefined what scary was for a game. Silent Hill was pretty scary. That was like nightmare fuel. Like, that would give you legitimate nightmares. But excuse me. But yeah, the PlayStation version of Doom was my exposure to Doom for a long time, until I did get Windows 95. And at that point, I still was, I didn't really venture into Doom in the PC. Whoa. Doom into the PC at all. I was still, at that point, I was like more concerned about playing Quake 2 and Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 back in those days, and playing that online with a friend of mine. So, you know, Doom wasn't on the forefront anymore of my mind, because Doom was just kind of old news at that point. I had played the hell out of it on the PlayStation, and you know, I had kind of my fill of Doom. I hadn't played Final Doom at that point. I was all about the competitive multiplayer back in those days. It wasn't until I heard about Source Ports that kind of fell back in love with Doom again. Because it kind of brought Doom, it kept the same old school aesthetic of Doom, but I could also, you know, I would have the mouse and keyboard controls, which I love. You know, after finally, you know, getting a Windows 95 machine, I could play those new next-gen first-person shooters like, you know, Quake 2, and and Half-Life, stuff like that, and I've gotten totally used to the whole mouse and keyboard. Oh, this is not good. Am I screwed? I think I'm screwed. Man, that is so lame. Oh, I got caught up in my story. But yeah, I had totally gotten into, you know, at that point, all the new 3D first-person shooters and everything. When the Source Ports came out, I was like, oh, this kind of brings fresh air into Doom. Keeps the old-school aesthetic. I can add in the things I like about Doom, which was, you know, the PlayStation version. And I can use the control scheme I like, which was mouse and keyboard. And ever since the Source Ports come out, Doom is just a game I play on a regular basis. I play Doom 2 fairly consistently. Actually, I was just mentioning before Doom 2016 came out, I was so hyped up for it, I actually went back and played like a lot of the old Dooms. I went through all of Doom 2. I think I did go through all of Ultimate Doom. So this is fairly recent, so I'm going through this again not long after I've already done it. And had you know, even then, I mean, before then, I'd still played Doom 2 fairly consistently, pretty often. At least Doom 2. I played Doom 2 like crazy. It's just my favorite Doom. So many good things about Doom 2 that's just amazing. But, yeah, so that's kind of my history of Doom. And then there's, you know, certain things like, you know, Hexen has a kind of special place in my heart too, and, you know, I love Hexen actually. That is a great game. Heretic and games like that, Duke Nukem. You know, there's some nostalgia with those games as well. But yeah, it just that's my history of Doom, and that's kind of the reason why I like to play with, you know, the mouse and keyboard setup and the PlayStation sound effects, because it just kind of, that's just how it's, like, in my opinion, the best way to play Doom. You get the best of the modern, best of the old school, and, you know, a little bit of the improvements that have made it better over the years. And like the PlayStation version, I think, is a great version of Doom. I think it's a great, you know, if you haven't played it, get the Total Conversion mod for it, which is Planet Doom, or you know, pick up a copy of it. I'm sure it's somewhere at a used game store somewhere, or on eBay or whatever. But it's a great version of Doom. Total Conversion mod is probably a little better though, because the looking back, the PlayStation version, the frame rates are pretty terrible. The frame rates were actually super bad, but it's still, I mean, it is good though. It'd be hard for me to go back and play the PlayStation version right now. I'll be truthfully honest, or brutally honest about that. Alright, I'm not going to die this time. But my first history of first-person shooters would have been Wolfenstein 3D on the Super Nintendo, actually. Which was not a terrible port. Yeah, they took out all the blood, they took out all the Nazi symbolism and everything, but to be honest, it wasn't a terrible port of the game. It was, you know, it was playable. It was not like the Doom port on the Super Nintendo, which was just absolutely atrocious. That was kind of the first-person shooter I played like that, and I loved it. I thought Wolfenstein 3D was great. Of course, going back now, it hasn't aged very well, considering the fact that it's been, you know, oh man, that hurt. Considering the fact that the game is very maze-like. The level design is not the best. I mean, at the time, yeah, it was fantastic. It was new. It was great. You never saw anything like that. But yeah, it hasn't aged that well. I've gone through. I mean, I've gone through Wolfenstein 3D. Beaten it. I don't have any intention of doing it again. But that was my first exposure to first-person shooter, was that game. And then Doom on the Super Nintendo, and then after that, I did get introduced to Hexen by a friend of mine. He had a 486, and we would play Hexen on it, and it was actually a, yeah, he ran it fairly well, and I loved Hexen. I thought Hexen was just the bee's knees at the time. I mean, it was different than Doom. It was a completely different game than Doom. You know, even though, yeah, it was first person like Doom, to me it was something different. To me, Doom was still majestic in a certain way, you know, in a nostalgia kind of way that Hexen doesn't really do for me, but I still really like Hexen. We're going to be doing the secret level here, aren't we? So, that was kind of my history of first-person shooters. And Doom was pretty much dominated that until I actually skipped Quake for a while there. I didn't play. My first Quake game was actually Quake 2. I did not play the original Quake when it first came out on, it was actually a really long time after, I think after Quake 3 had actually come out that I actually sat down and played Quake 1. Which Quake 1, again, is, in my opinion, kind of like a Wolfenstein game where, for its time, it was fun and, you know, it's still entertaining, but it's just, there's something lacking about it, and I think it's kind of like from a level design perspective. And even that Quake 2 is a really great single-player game. It's kind of terrible for single-player. I'm sure purists out there are like, what? How dare you? Multiplayer was where it's at, and that's what I did mostly when my Quake 2 time was play multiplayer. I really enjoyed the multiplayer on Quake 2. Same thing with Quake 3. I mean, Quake 3 was nothing but multiplayer, and you were not playing that single player. It was pointless to play it single player. There wasn't really a single player to speak of, but, man, I am not doing too hot, am I? Crap. So, I played a lot of Quake 2, and then I didn't really play Unreal a whole lot. I just wasn't really a huge fan of Unreal. Again, I just wasn't a huge fan of it. I mean, it was good for what it was, but, you know, graphic technology, it was amazing. Like, that's what, at the time, I was like, man, this is what gaming's going to be. This is crazy. But I was never a big fan of Unreal, but I did love Unreal Tournament. I played the heck out of Unreal Tournament. And even Quake 3, back when it was like, which is better, you know, Unreal Tournament or Quake 3. I was an Unreal Tournament person. Like, I preferred Unreal Tournament over Quake 3. I just thought they were a superior game. Oh, this is bad. This is real bad. It's bad. Okay, well, let's try this again. So, and then, you know, there was like Heretic, which was okay. I think Heretic was definitely a much better game than Quake, in my opinion. If somebody would say, well, what game should I play, Heretic or Quake? I'd be like, well, Heretic is better. But I'm just not a huge Quake 1 fan. I understand like its importance and everything, and I get it. And it's not a terrible game, but, you know, as far as first-person shooters go, it's not that great, you know. So, and that's just my opinion. But, you know, of course, naturally, being a console, I was a console peasant for a long time. Even though, yeah, I had a computer, most things I always was kind of like a step behind on computers. Like, I never always had the latest and greatest tech, so I couldn't always play the latest and greatest games. And so I was kind of a console peasant because it was just easier for me. And so I did play a lot of Turok. I loved Turok. I thought Turok was great. And I played a lot of GoldenEye. GoldenEye was great. But it wasn't until probably the days of... I'd say Doom 3. At that point, I think when Doom 3 came around, I was always up on the up. Like, I could always play the latest game that was out. You know, it was the Doom 3 days that got me, pretty much from Doom 3. All right, I would say Half-Life 2 on. I was always able to play the newest and greatest games, you know, at decent, you know, resolutions and graphics quality. So, I remember when Half-Life, I begged my dad, literally begged my dad to buy Half-Life for me, and it worked. I got a copy of Half-Life, and it was amazing. I played a lot of Half-Life, actually. A lot of Team Fortress, the original Team Fortress, or Team Fortress Classic. I played a lot of that, too. But Half-Life just doesn't have its, you know, its special place in my heart like id games do, you know? So, because Half-Life 2 was great. I enjoyed it. I was excited for it. But I was not as excited for Half-Life 2 as I was for, like, Doom 3. I was super stoked for Doom 3 when I heard it came out. or it was coming out. But the unfortunate thing is that it was okay. I don't think it really lived up to, you know, my expectations or most people's expectations. I mean, it wasn't a terrible game by any means. It was a good game, but you know how dark it was, all the monster closets and everything. I don't think it sat right with a lot of people. So it's pretty bad that, like, you know, something like the duct tape mod was like one of the was like something that you had to have, you know. So I've kind of been rambling here. I don't know where I was really going with any of that. Anyways, I like Doom. And I've been playing first-person shooters for a long time. So, yeah.
Wow.
I think it all started off me remembering about playing the 32X version of this game. How I thought it was awesome. Now I go back and like read articles and stuff talking about the worst versions of Doom. Everyone's like, oh, well, it was definitely the 32X version. That version was terrible. And I'm like, yeah, I have to kind of agree looking back on it now. It's the only game where you actually get thrown up to a C prompt. I think there was one level, and if I remember that, I remember the level, and I remember the exact spot the game would crash, where Doom on 32X would crash to a C prompt. And if I remember while I'm playing, when we get there, I'll bring it up, like where that was. It's kind of funny. And it only did if you had cheats. If you had cheats, you can get it to crash. I think that was pretty much the only way it would crash is if you had cheats on. So, let's see, we're getting close to the end here. Alright, these guys gotta die. Honestly, I think what makes Doom 1 harder than Doom 2 is the fact that you don't have a double barrel shotgun. Imagine this room right here that I just killed all these enemies for, or with, or in. Oof. Imagine if I had the double barrel shotgun. Like, how much easier it would have been just been like, oh, well, pfft. Just unload. Okay. I'm trying to remember how this works. It's been a long time since I've actually done this level. Come on, verse. Alright, you know what? I don't need them that badly. I don't feel like wasting y'all's time with that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh man, this doesn't sound good. I don't want to die here. Ah! Man. Level's no joke. Alright. So I think that's a good spot to call it here for now. Save game. Oh man, the mouse is so sensitive here. Alright, save game. Yeah, let's see. This was the Doom save I was playing. This is, yeah, back in May, so this would have been not long after, or not long before Doom. I guess did I not go through all the way through Doom 1? I don't remember. No, well. We'll call this Reverend Verse. Alright, so we will continue this with another episode. If you liked the video and my just incoherent babbling, go and, you know, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. I'll leave my Twitter and Twitch information below. Hope to see you guys again soon. Thanks.